Welcome to Board Ghost, story broadcast with games as the engine.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, but has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me, no.
We believe you're out there, hungry for stories for shared experience. We can't see you, can't hear you, yet we will play for you. This night's offering is The Companion's Tale. To learn how we generate stories playing The Companion's Tale, go check out our Companion's Tale primer. So Laura Simpson designed The Companion's Tale, and it is out in print, so you can get your copy of it at your friendly local game store or online. Okay, so this is a map game, so we'll be drawing a map as we go. And the first thing we're going to do is our prologue. Our humble players, myself, John Holt, with me.
Ken Breeze.
And D. Gailey.
All right, welcome back, D.
Friend of the show, D. Gailey.
Woohoo.
Cool. So let's go into our setup.
What do parents warn our children about at bedtime? What celebration is tied to that fear? I am gonna draw a big lake. And I feel like the lake is important in our society, in the society of this world. So there's something in the lake that comes out at night. We celebrate the lake. We love the lake, but there's something spooky that could get the
Is there a name to the lake?
Ashbala.
Toshbala. Okay. What is the most prominent physical feature of our land, and what virtue does it metaphorically represent? So we have a big lake that we like. We like our lake.
And there's something in it.
There's something scary in it. What is a physical prominent physical feature? There are big cliffs, and there's a waterfall that comes off the cliffs and falls like into like the mist and trees. Called the Crying Man. And what do they mean? I think it represents grieving, but also continuing to move forward, like staying strong, but being open enough to grieve.
Death and taxes are the only constraints in life. Who do we pay taxes to? We pay taxes to a sentient colony of bees, and they reside in a beehive city far away from the lake.
Do the bees have a name?
They are the tiplocks.
What is the price of magic? Who usually wields it? The price of magic is imagination and creativity. It's usually children who wield it because adults don't understand if they've used their childhood magic to give up their imagination, creativity. So I think it has to be like a special kid place. Maybe there's a little
Obstacle course
cave
type of cave.
in the cliff. Yeah, there's like a little secret path through the trees around the Crying Man. But only the kids know where it is, but they forget as they use up their magic.
And what is the name of the cave?
The cave. It's called the Crystal Cave because inside, once you get in, the walls are all cool
Crystalline.
geodes and
That'll be it. So we have our map, we have our initial setup, and we're going to get into our tale telling. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do in Act 1 is the historian phase. This first act is the hero's genesis. So what we do first is we draw a theme card, and everyone shares this card. So renewal. Once a land laid abandoned and spoiled, or once a moment of reflection provided insight. So this is sort of the theme for this round. So what we're going to do is take turns in turn describing a historical event based off of this theme, and each player is going to draw an interpretation of their description on the map as they take their turn.
I think there existed in the ancient times a connection between the Crying Man and Lake Dishbala, a river. It was filled in through mudslides and different natural disasters. However, in the past decades, a canal has been cut to reconnect the river, or rather the lake, and the Crying Man. It was created by a stout farming communities of the Epom people.
And is there a name for the canal?
Yeah, it's called the Cut.
In ancient times, the people who lived here had small communities, and they were lucky to find this beautiful valley. But one winter, the snow was just so bad that there was no food, no water, and one day someone from the village just wandered blindly in the snow to try and find like some last animal or something. And in the snow they heard a sound, and it was a buzzing sound. And following the buzzing sound through the snow, they came upon a rock. And inside, attached to the rock, was this buzzing little beehive. And inside the hive was honey that the person was able to bring back to the community, and they were able to survive in that long winter. And now everyone knows that rock. It's the buzzing rock.
Mm-hmm.
Way out by the giant triplock hive where the bees now have a thriving colony.
For a long, long time, there was no real way in and out of the valley.
Right.
There had been passes, but they were destroyed by rock slides and seismic events. And eventually a crew brought it upon themselves to clean out and carve out a path, and they try to maintain it that at least gets to the rim of the cliff so that there's some way in and out of the valley. Call it skyward, this path up back out of the valley. Cool. So now we're going to go to our initial phases. Our next phases are story rounds.
I guess a recent event would be that there is like ships or boats that are starting to go onto the Dishbola Lake because there are more farming communities that are cropping up on the other side. So they are trying to transport goods between them. And the crews are very brave because something lives in the Dishbola Lake. We're not sure what.
I've known the hero ever since they were little. And as they grew, I could tell there was something special about them. They were a fierce warrior. They were brave. They were the first person to explore or strike out anywhere. But they started to develop this sort of conceited air, this arrogance. I tried to counsel them. I tried to, tell them to practice, humbleness and care in what they did, but they would laugh me off. So for a while, we'd been struggling with living in the valley. The hero, they wanted to see new stuff. They wanted to get out of here. But at the time, the only way out of the valley was up the steep cliffs where the Crying Man were. One night I dreamed, and I had a horrible dream. I dreamed that, of falling, of people freewheeling through the sky. And I tried to warn the hero. I told them that if they attempted to climb the cliffs, something horrible was going to happen. And they just laughed me off. Then they went with a group of others from the village to try and scale those cliffs. And I have to tell you, in the end, only the hero survived. And it was a sad day in the valley.
Look, now that we can trade across the lake, we don't really need as much honey as we relied on as before. I kind of feel like we stopped providing as much larder to the hive. You know, it's they've gotten they've gotten more demanding, and I mean bigger too, fat off the cattle that we bring to them. The honey gets sweeter, but again, do we really need it? It just doesn't seem healthy to keep making these bees bigger and bigger. We're not getting any bigger.
At this point in the history of the valley, there were many humorous songs that were created to tweak the hive. Almost was this social impact campaign where these songs started to spread among the farms of the Epom and across the lake of the Dishbala, and they were not very kind to the hive. The first senses of the Epom getting away from their connection to the hive. So these songs would have lyrics like, or song titles like, "Don't let the day sting you away," "Honey ain't sweet." The other sort of more mean one would be "Clip their wings." There has recently been an amphitheater that was built for all these musicians that are starting to pop up in these farm communities. And they maybe have a battle of the bands or something like that. It's almost like a festival that happens.
Known as an amphitheater is really kind of just like a collection of big rocks. The people who are singing these songs, the mean songs about the bees, they're sort of like the pimply, greasy folks of the town, and rather think themselves better at music than they really are. So they set up this, what they call the amphitheater, collection of big rocks that they hauled all afternoon, and they've kind of put together some rudimentary instruments of sticks and reeds that make this horrible screeching sound, and at all hours of the day they're over there clacking and you know, making noise. And it's a good thing they're kind of on the far side of the lake, because it'd be really annoying to the general populace.
When I was sent from the mountains beyond to watch the valley, to look for the fallen one, I couldn't imagine it would have been the hero. They climbed up with all the other fools to the top of the cliffs, and he fell. They all fell. But the hero was the one to survive. They fell, say. So it's begun again. There is now a new fallen one. So I walked with him and observed. I was told only to observe, but how long before this fallen one visits the doom that is prophesized? Like the first fallen one before him and the fallen one that came before that.
So while the people of the Epom were singing their songs and banging on their rocks, the Tiplock hive, these bees that are the size of horses, who have sort of been ruling over these plains southwest of the valley, I saw them fly out. I remember that night. I was at the buzzing rock getting some honey. The lines weren't as long as they used to be, but the buzz still had a certain lullaby quality to it. But then the tone of the buzzing changed, and I just saw these formations of tiplocks flying above me overhead. They seemed to be spreading out across the valley. I was worried. They seemed mad.
In response to the groups of people heading out to the rock amphitheater, making their noise, people in town kind of thought of them derisively. They kind of like talked smack about them, and they came to call the groups of kids and teens out there at the rock amphitheater clang their rocks together all day long. They called them bangers. They kind of laughed at them behind their back. Recently, someone's mom figured out that the children were disappearing at odd times. And so she followed them through their secret trail, through the forest to the crystal cave. and she saw that they were doing magic, and she burst in on them and dragged their kid back home and said, you need to be working, not messing around with these other kids. And she spread it around to the other parents of the village. So they had a town meeting and all the kids got in trouble, and I think maybe there was like an especially big bonfire that they built. So there's like a big pile of ashes.
Did they cut off access to the cave?
Maybe they just warned the kids not to go back, right? Like, it wasn't like a huge problem. They're like pretty confident that the kids are gonna obey their leaders.
Okay.
I am the hero's patron. I met the hero after they had fell from the Crying Man cliffs. I remember them limping into my village. At that time, I was very concerned with the business of grain and the business of honey. Shipping things across the Dishbala and out to the Buzzing Rock. I saw something in the hero, supported them because of this potential. The hero was very discouraged after their fall and after losing so many in the ascent. The Skyward had not been rebuilt at that time. And so the hero was very focused on how they could recapture the hopes and the support of the people. In the hero, I saw a warrior, but I saw someone with arrogance. My ships had been disappearing, much like the children of our village. And so I charged the hero to sail the Dishbala and discover its secrets. Unfortunately, when I gave one of my relics from the ancient kingdom to help them, a compass, it was lost in the lake.
Right, the day that the Triplocs left their hive, they made their way eventually to the Rock Amphitheater. They were not happy about all the noise. There was much discussion, much buzzing, and much yelling. And in the end, someone got hurt. Things were never really the same with the Triploc after that. And the villagers.
With the path to the cave discovered, now that the adults could see it, they saw the mural of names and the prints in blood of small children's hands, and they saw their own names written there. And looking at that, they couldn't recall when those hands were put there, but they could recall through an ache, something missing in the middle of them, that they gained a magic for a time, but they lost something greater. So now we're going to go to the biographer phase.
Right.
Because we've done full rotations. Do you want me here? I'll go first. Look, if you call yourself an oracle, you're going to see big events like when the bees came down to the rock hole and started messing up us bangers. Really, the oracle just has eyes in the sky. It's just dreamer. It doesn't. I don't know why they provide her a stipend. It's a total waste of money. We don't need an oracle. We just need to go spend that money and we can kill those bees.
In all the accounts we've read of the hero and their fall, both from greatness and then their increasing incline into their bright future, we've talked about and seen the role of the patron, this person who claims altruistic motives of lifting the hero up and making their journey that much greater from their patronage. But no one ever talks about what that patron really saw in the hero, about what motives they had outside of altruism. No, there was something there, something more sinister, something more lascivious at play, the patron's helping of the hero.
The hero surrounded themselves with dubious companions. They weren't warriors, they weren't great thinkers, they weren't strategists or craftspeople, they weren't commanders or kings. They were childhood friends and random acquaintances. Some, like the spy, would not even show their face to people. They hid underneath helms and masks. It was difficult for me to trust the hero because of these shady characters.
So now we're going to go to Act 2. We're going to draw the theme card for this act. So the theme for this act is vengeance. And this is the hero's rise. The path to glory and fame is littered with early efforts. It's said that we haven't always lived in the valley. The bees say they were here first. But some people say we brought them with us too. There are lands beyond the crying man, beyond the staring sisters. There's tales of a city, a shining city, that we hail from, where our true ancestors live. These guys are called the Staring Sisters now, and that's the shining city. Way out there, maybe. But yeah. Oh, but vengeance.
Vengeance.
How does vengeance?
Oh, but vengeance.
And the
We'll take our revenge on them.
And we fled that city for many reasons. I think we fear that they might find us and that we may feel their wrath.
Speaking of wrath, the Dishbala Lake the people knew to stay away from for many years. They were worried of the ancient tales of danger and death that lived underneath its watery surface. However, as the people of the Epom began to sail the lake, more and more of their ships disappeared. And it was finally revealed giant tentacles were coming out of the lake to snatch them and bring them below.
After the dark events of the day at the Rock Amphitheater, Triplock bees were injured, bangers were injured. After that, the relationship with the bees was never the same. They were not friendly, were not able to get honey from them. And in fact, a group of bangers, after many a night of wine and carousing, decided that those bees were going to have to pay. So they slipped in the cover of night while the Triplocks were sleeping, buzzing quietly, the workers snoozing, and they attacked the hive with rocks and sticks, but because they were so drunk, they underestimated the power of the bees, and the bees had no choice but to murder all of them. The bangers tried to run, but they didn't get far. And so the fields next to the buzzing rock were littered with the corpses of those bangers. The massacre fields.
We'll interrupt our story here and continue in our next communique. I was one of your players, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho and on Instagram at board_ghost. Ken, where can people find you?
Board Ghost, check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Berlingsbeard, BERLINGS Beard. I am a creative and content creator and GM for hire. So if you're looking for a GM in the New York City area, please do contact me and we can play some games together.
All right. And Dee, where can people find you?
You can find me, D. Gailey, on Twitter at MXNURD, and we can tweet about games, LGBTQ issues, and all kinds of fun stuff.
All right. Thanks again for coming on, Dee.
Yeah, glad to be here.
All right. So to find out more about the players and engine in our story, go check out boardghost.com. Attempt to pierce the veil and contact us at boardghostworld on Twitter. Shout out through the ether if you have desires we can fulfill. I'd like to thank Pat Couples for our theme song and interlude music. You can find more about Pat at patcouples.tumblr.com or on his band's website, hotelsandhighways.com. If you're not alone in the void, share our stories. The more they are consumed, the truer they become.
'Cause Diane don't agree with me, no. 'Cause Diane don't agree with me, no. Oh,